Hello, everyone. I'm on PTO on Monday, so I thought I would just record a couple of things that I wanted to share for our group meeting, and that way you can review asynchronously. First of all, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the priorities issue that we've been using, as well as I wanted to discuss how we are scheduling things. I know the way I've been working is a little bit different from how things have been done before. So I just wanted to make sure I had a chance to discuss what that looks like and how we're scheduling milestones moving forward. So first of all, let me share the screen for our priorities issue. In here, we have a list of priorities. This is just the new feature work. So this does not include any bugs or maintenance that gets done in a milestone, and those all need to get done as well. But this is focused just on the new feature work. And so we're actually targeting for the new feature work to take up around 60% of the team's total capacity during the milestone, with bugs taking around 10% and maintenance work taking around 30%. That's pretty consistent with what we've been doing up to this point, so I don't really see this as a big change. But when we do the milestone planning, the idea is that the engineering manager will put items into the milestone, just roughly trying to address those target percentages. And then as a product manager, I go through and I prioritize the bugs with a priority 1 through 4. And then the engineering manager chooses which of those to actually put in the milestone. So as a product manager, I'm not doing any of the milestone scheduling myself. All I'm doing is just the prioritization, and then I let the engineering team handle the scheduling for when the individual work takes place. As far as new feature work, we now have the back-end DRI and the front-end DRI, and I don't think we've talked about that very much yet, but the idea of the DRI is that that person almost acts like a mini engineering manager for that feature. So the DRI is in charge of making sure that the work keeps moving. They're the person to go to answer any questions about it or make decisions, or even communicate timing, expected timing for release back to myself. As part of that, they typically do the refinement of it. So they'll create the issues, the implementation issues in it, and do the refinement. But they don't have to do all the work to actually implement the feature. So those issues that get created can be picked up by anybody in the team. They get moved into the milestone, and then anyone on the team, once they're available, they can pick that up. So it's not like, each of you have to work only on these specific areas and nowhere else. We actually want to promote cross-sharing in the group, and knowledge transfer in the group so that everybody's aware of what's being worked on. So I just wanted to provide an update there in case there is any confusion. If you have any questions on that, please feel free to reach out to me. Or if you have concerns or feedback, if you feel like this isn't a good way to do it, I'm very open to hearing that as well. All of this is a little bit of an experiment as we try out this new way of working here on the team. And so the other thing that I wanted to talk about today is I just wanted to do a little bit of a deep dive into these first 3 items, and they all relate to each other in a lot of different ways. But I wanted to talk about this specifically and make sure that everyone on the team has at least a high-level understanding of what we're trying to accomplish from a product management perspective. I'm not going to go into any of the deep engineering details. I know there are a lot of discussions on that, but just from a really high level, we're actually trying to address a few different problems. The first problem is that our license analyzer, our license scanner is not well maintained upstream. It requires a lot of maintenance work for us to keep that even just updated and working, and it's taking a lot of the team's time. So we'd like to eventually get rid of that and replace it with this new architecture. The second thing that we're working to address is we would like to move our dependencies into the database, because we have a whole lot of work around improvements for the dependency list that we just can't do while we read from artifact files. Things like showing the dependencies at the group level, or allowing users to search or group the dependencies by different things. All of that is just really not scalable when you're parsing out individual artifact files. And then the last thing that we want to address is ideally, the name of this epic is continuous vulnerability scans. Ideally, we'd be able to give users updates anytime that our advisory database changes, rather than requiring them to rerun the pipeline job. So to get around that, a lot of users today have a scheduled pipeline job where they run that pipeline again and again and again, just checking to see if anything's changed on our advisory database. That's not very efficient because it uses up a lot of pipeline minutes, and it's also not real time or near real time. So there's always a delay there between when they can schedule that pipeline job and when they get the results. So those are the three big problems that we're trying to solve. At a very high level, the approach that we're proposing to solve this with is to have the container and dependency scanners output just a software bill of materials. They won't actually do any scanning. So scanning is kind of misleading here in that term. It's really just scanning for dependencies, but it's not doing any vulnerability scanning at this stage. It would just be creating that CycloneDX formatted SBOM that would get fed into the database where it gets stored here in the dependency list. Additionally, we would want to include our GitLab advisories database and store that in the GitLab database as well, so that we can then do that match right here inside of Rails, where we do that comparison and we identify which dependencies, what match which advisories, and create vulnerabilities off of those. And again, this shifts it from a model where we do that scanning every time there's a new pipeline run into a model where we run that scanning on change. We would run that anytime a new SBOM comes in, that would be a change, or anytime there's a change to the advisory database, we would update those vulnerabilities synchronously, almost near real time. As part of this, we would need some sort of asynchronous process to update this advisory database with its upstream sources. And then the idea is that we can do the exact same thing for license data here as well. There's no need to have a separate scanner. We can have all of that. We can just reuse that same CycloneDX SBOM that gets stored in the database, and we can use that for license matching as well. So if we create a new place in the database to store license information that associates licenses with specific packages and versions, we can then run that match synchronously and update it live anytime that there's a change to either of these two. Just like before, we would need some sort of asynchronous way to update this license information data in the database so that that's kept up to date, and it would trigger that license match job, which would then provide the new license data. So this is a really big undertaking, but it has some huge benefits for customers, all the way from making sure that the data is constantly being updated, so they have continuous scanning, to having the data in the database so that we can do group level dependency lists and searching and grouping. And then lastly, it's going to allow us to free up our own engineering time by reducing our maintenance burden, specifically with the license compliance piece of the work. Again, if you have any questions on any of this or concerns or feedback, please feel free to reach out to me in any way that's comfortable for you. And thanks for watching.